Alright, so theoretical yield is the amount of the product that would result if all limiting reagent reacted. Alright, that's the theoretical. And what is actual? Actual yield is the amount of product actually obtained from a reaction. So it is the amount of product actually obtained from a reaction. And we can use this equation, percent yield equals actual yield divided by theoretical yield times 100. So actual yield is the we can determine through stoichiometric calculation from balance equation. Oh, that's the theoretical yield. Let me revise this one. Theoretical yield you can get it from stoichiometric calculation, and actual yield is the whatever you obtain. Let's say your equipments are old in that production, it cannot percent 100%, you get some error. So that's actual yield, and when you divide you get percent yield. Alright, so let's take an example of calculating percent yield. So I'm going to write that example. So when 11.2 grams CaCO3 reacts with excess HCl as below, and 4.61 grams of CO2 is produced, what is percent yield of CO2? Alright, and I'm going to write that equation. CaCO3 in solid form, 2 moles of HCl in aqueous form, and CO2 gas plus CaCl2 aqueous and H2O liquid. Alright, now in here we have 11.12 grams, so 11.2 grams of CaCO3 is given, and these grams of CO2 is produced. So that is actual yield that is given. We need to calculate theoretical yield. Theoretical yield we can calculate through balance equation. That means we convert grams to moles of CaCO3, and then we convert grams of CO2, right? So what we can do? We have 11.2 grams of CaCO3. We convert into moles. We know that 1 mole equals 100 grams of CaCO3. That's the molar mass, right? And when you do that, grams cancel, you get moles. Let me rewrite this one, 100 will not be cancelled. Okay. Then we use mole ratio. We know 1 to 1 mole ratio. 1 mole CO2 produced while 1 mole of CaCO3 used up. So we use mole ratio, and then we convert into grams of CO2. You know that 1 mole CO2 and it's 44 grams of CO2. So you cancel out moles of CO3, moles of CO2, and you can produce grams of CO2, which is 4.928 grams of CO2 that you can calculate. So you have given actual yield and this is theoretical yield.
What's the grams of the CO2 on the right?
44 grams. 44 grams of CO2. That's the molar mass of CO2. So let me rewrite that. It's 44 grams of CO2. Okay. So now you have actual yield and theoretical yield. When you put those values in equation, you get percent yield, actual value of grams, which is we have actual value of grams 4.61 grams, and theoretical value we have 4.928 grams times 100, and when you calculate you get about 93.5% yield. And that's how we can calculate that percent, 93.5% of CO2 produced in this reaction.